Welcome to episode 126 of the Family Answer Man podcast. Today we're talking about psychopaths, scam artists, and how they want to ruin your Christmas from a biblical worldview on the Family Answer Man. I'm your host, David Orges, and I'm here with Dr. Mark Crosby. He is a pastor, he is an educator, he is a marriage and family therapist, and he is the resident expert here on the Family Answer Man. Family Answer Man is not a therapy session. We can't give you specific advice, but we do believe that spiritual and mental health are very serious issues. So if you have any more questions, we definitely encourage you to seek professional counsel for your unique circumstances. Before we get started today, before we jump in, if you would hit the notification bell and subscribe to our YouTube channel, that would be greatly appreciated. It helps us out a lot. And if you're listening via podcast, if you'll rate and review us on your favorite podcast app, again, that helps us out a lot. And as always, you can help grow the Family Answer Man community by inviting your family and your friends to join you on this journey of having a stronger, healthier, happier family. Dr. Mark, good to be here with you today.
Yes.
Fun question.
Oh, yeah.
Great title, Psychopaths, Scammers, and Christmas.
Right.
Does not sound like a great mix.
Unfortunately, it's not.
But a common mix.
Yeah.
This is something that has gotten a lot more common. It's just the scam artists that,
right.
Whether it's, used to, if you were going to get scammed by somebody, it was somebody that would show up at your door, kind of knock on the door, right? Start a conversation. Now it's like, it's everywhere. You get phone calls, text messages, emails,
parking lots.
Parking lot, right? Do you feel like this is a pretty big epidemic that we're facing?
Absolutely. Again, with the advent of Facebook and social media, and of course other technology, people are able to get in touch with people from all backgrounds, shapes, sizes, discover things about them that would be considered secret or private, 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago. But now they can just simply, go to any website almost and type in your name, and all of a sudden, your personal information comes up in many ways, in many cases. And with that being said, they can then begin to contact you and begin to play you, con you, if you will. And again, unfortunately, there are a lot of people, say 55, 60 and older, who still aren't quite sure of just how much information about them is out there. And because of that, these people will call and they will identify themselves as maybe some sort of banker or loan officer or something like that, IRS or whomever, and sometimes these people will fall to their scam or to their con, and they'll say things or do things or give information. Some will come across as a old friend or an old relative, or they've been talking to one of your old friends or one of your old relatives and wanting to get information from you and say things to you and say things about you, and they know things, and you're thinking, well, the person may be thinking, well, how would they know this unless they actually knew my friend or my relative? Yeah. And so now they're drawn into this conversation, and the more they're drawn into the conversation, this scammer, this con artist, they know how to ask the right questions to get more information. And as they do that, they begin to play on the person's sympathy and on the person's kindness and the person's, gratitude and grace. And so as they begin to play on that, they're able to get information, and the more information they get, they're able to then say things that would cause them to give up their money, bank numbers, etc.
Yeah, and it is a danger, especially at this time of the year around Christmas, and so it's something that hopefully we'll be able to help people with today. If you have a question that you want to have answered on the show, we would love to do that. You can email us. It's familyanswerman@liveoak.church, familyanswerman@liveoak.church. Or if you're watching on YouTube, you can just leave a comment in the comment section, and we would, again, love to answer these questions for you. The one that we have for today says that my mom is widowed and alone. She's in her mid-60s, and she was left a nice insurance payment after my dad died. She's now getting phone calls, emails, Facebook requests from men who are in need of financial assistance. Some are offering her companionship. Some are offering interesting opportunities. Some are offering employment. And she believes that they're real. Problem is that she's already lost over $25,000 to these cons. I can't understand who would do this and what can be done.
Wow. So again, unfortunately, this is happening, and all of us have stories of friends or family members, or maybe even our own parents who are falling prey to some of these cons and some of these scams. And even though there are a lot of warnings out there. There's advertisements even about, beware of these cons, these scams.
Right.
Unfortunately, a lot of people are falling for them. And again, people that we know, people in our churches who are falling for some of these con artists and for some of these scams. And so again, this is a time when the antisocial personality or those with psychopathy begin to emerge.
Okay.
And so basically, for those who are kind of new to our program and not familiar with the antisocial personality diagnosis, or what that means is, it doesn't mean antisocial personality doesn't mean a person is not liking society or social gatherings.
Right.
It means they have a pervasive pattern of disregard for the violation of the rights of others.
That's really good. Say that again.
So they basically have this pervasive pattern of disregard for the violation of the rights of others. And this begins for most of these individuals with this diagnosis around the age of 15. They have to have at least 3 of the following, if you will, diagnoses, or 3 of the following symptoms. Number 1, they fail to conform to laws, rules, and societal norms. So these are the individuals that the law doesn't apply to them, the rules don't apply to them, they break the rules, they break the laws. If it says 30 miles per hour, they're going to go 70 miles per hour kind of thing. Societal norms don't apply to them. And so they just fail to conform to this. Number 2, those with antisocial personality disorder, they enjoy deceitfulness. They enjoy scamming. They enjoy conning. This is a game to them. This is as fun to them as a person who loves to play football plays football, or baseball or basketball, whatever it may be. But they enjoy deceiving. They enjoy scamming. They get up thrilled, if you will, on how many people they can con or scam in the course of that day. So again, they enjoy deceitfulness. Number 3, they're impulsive. They fail to plan, and they have no real consideration of others. So the reason why they have to do this in their mind is because they don't want to have a real job. They don't want to have a real responsibility. They don't want to have to plan. They're impulsive. They fail to plan, and they have no consideration of others.
Yeah.
Number 4, many times the person with the antisocial personality disorder, they're very aggressive. Sometimes they're out of control. And in many cases, because of their aggression, they take pleasure in hurting others. So again, if they can make someone cry, if they can make someone sad, if they can make someone feel bad about themselves, they feel they've inflicted pain on someone, they almost take pleasure in that. They're often, number 5, they're often reckless, and they have, again, disregard for the safety of others. They don't believe that having a car seat for a child applies to them. They don't believe that wearing a seatbelt applies to them. They don't believe that, telling someone that something is wrong or the bridge is out, so to speak, applies to them. They're just reckless. They have disregard for safety and for others, and they're just, again, a person who has no real sense of responsibility. Which means, number 6, they're irresponsible people, especially with money. If they get a payment on Monday, in many cases, they'll have it, spent by Wednesday. They don't pay their bills. They don't pay their grocery bill. They don't pay they basically, and we'll get more into this in a moment, they become very parasitical. This is where it becomes more in the area of psychopathy. Number 7, and this is perhaps the most interesting and the most important of this list, they lack remorse, and they justify their violence. They don't have any remorse. They have no sense of, oh man, I probably took all this person's money. I probably took all this person's savings. This person's probably now destitute because I have conned them of all their money. They have no sense of remorse. And they justify their violence, or they justify their con. Their thought is, well, she, inherited, $100,000. They didn't do nothing to earn that, and so I can take it from them. And so they justify their violence. That person received an insurance payment more than she'll ever spend in her lifetime. I can get some of that. And so they justify their violence. They justify their sense of scamming. And so they lack remorse. And this is very dangerous. These individuals are dangerous because they, again, want to hurt, scam, take, rob, manipulate anything they possibly can from people who often need this money to live on,
right,
and to go through life and to spend their golden years, etc. So psychopathy is, again, another word that is being used today, which is basically the antisocial personality traits that we just mentioned with added traits.
Okay.
For example, the person who struggles with psychopathy, they're very charming, they're very manipulative, and they're good, quote unquote, at lying. So when they get that person on the phone, they'll say, well, hi, Mrs. Jones, I really am glad that, we're friends now. And I'm really glad that, that we can, speak like this. And I'm really grateful for your time with me. And by the way, I'm in a kind of a bind. And I know that you're a good Christian woman. And because you're a good Christian woman and I'm in a bind, the Bible says that whoever asks of you who's in need, you're to give. And so I really do need, about $10,000 and just 10, and I will be happy to pay you back in about 2 months when I get my first check in. And now Mrs. Jones is going, well, I am a good Christian woman and they're in need and we are friends now, I suppose. I guess we're Facebook friends. And so I did inherit, a lot of money from my dear departed husband. And so I'm sure he would want this too. So where can I wire the money? They're charming.
It's the classic snake charmer, right?
They're manipulative and they are good at lying. Not only that, but those who struggle with psychopathy are callous. And again, like the psychopath or the antisocial personality person, there is no remorse for what they say or do. They're parasitic. If you're kind of keeping count, this is the third trait, which means they want to live off of someone else. They want to basically attach themselves to someone else, live off someone else without doing any work. And so they're very parasitic. They have very poor behavioral control, and they have a low level of conscientiousness, which means this: there's no sense of care. They don't care that they're hurting you. They don't care that they're scamming you. There's no sense of duty. There's no sense of honor in their life. They just want to get as much as they can from as many as they can while they can. And Christmas season is the season that many of them want to do this. These people are often angry, by the way. Underneath that facade of charm and grandiosity is a sense of anger. These people are angry with themselves. They're angry with the world. They're angry with their parents. They're angry with their family of origin. They're angry with God. They're angry with their first boss. They're angry with their ex-wife. They're just angry. And so this is their very passive-aggressive way, I guess you could say, of getting back at the world and maybe receiving something that they've never earned and they certainly don't deserve. And this is their way of doing that.
Does that anger ever come out if somebody does put up a boundary or they challenge them?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
They come across charming at first. They come across very, kind at first. They come across, very caring at first. But when you begin to push back and you begin to expose them for what they're really doing, then they become extremely aggressive very fast.
Okay.
And that's when they can become almost dangerous. And so again, because when the moment their con is exposed, the moment their scam is exposed, that's when, again, their only recourse now is to become aggressive, and that aggression, of course, is birthed from anger. They also take great joy in exploiting people. So that is their joy. That is what really gets them motivated. They enjoy exploiting those. Now, the point is, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about the antisocial personality disorder or the psychopath and how they manipulate people during the Christmas season. You must have 3 of these traits, by the way, occurring concurrently for it to be an official diagnosis. Okay. So in other words, people who have these traits, if you will, it's a lifestyle for them. This is a lifestyle. This is a way of living. It's often seen in childhood. This doesn't just happen overnight. Maybe a youth pastor or a pastor has seen this maybe in their youth ministry, where this person, this student, this child, if you will, they take pleasure in being deceitful. They take pleasure in maybe stealing from the other kids. They take pleasure maybe in hurting others. They even take pleasure in having this blatant defiance of authority. So this is the kid you have to watch, during the trip, if you will, the mission trip. This is the kid you have to kind of keep your eyes on during, the camp setting. This is the kid you have to watch. This is the kid that everybody complains about. He stole my money. He stole my shoes. He stole my whatever. And so these individuals, they steal, they deceive, they tell these very deceitful, they tell these amazing lies, and they don't mind hurting others. They don't mind hurting animals. So again, you see it in childhood, and then it evolves and continues to grow on into adulthood, to where they again become this psychopath, or the official is the antisocial personality disorder person.
Which you could see how that would be really dangerous with adults. I know you mentioned students, children,
right?
But grow into adulthood in churches, and this portrayal of, especially with some of those the comorbidities of being really charming and being very spiritual,
right? They're in the pews.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. They're in the pews of churches, and sometimes they're there, unfortunately, not to hear the word, but they're there often to con the ladies 2 pews ahead of them, and they sometimes will come across, again, very charming, very manipulative, and they will find themselves, unfortunately, conning some of the women in the church. In some cases, some of the men, this goes both directions in some cases, but more likely a man than a woman. But women do have these traits as well. But they will begin to do that. And so you need to be aware. So if you're pastoring a church, or if you're an associate pastor or a youth pastor, be aware that these people are unfortunately out there. They test limits. They will push the limit. They have no desire for approval. They don't care if you like them or not. Okay, they just don't want to be found out. They just don't want to be exposed. And so when a pastor or someone begins to question them, or begins to push back, or begins to warn the ladies of his church about them, they become very angry. Because again, they have no desire for approval, but they don't want to be exposed. And they are indifferent. They're indifferent to people's feelings, thoughts, actions. So here's the question we're asking today. So again, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about what happens when your mom or your parent, or whomever it may be, your grandparent may be conned or being scammed by someone, maybe via Facebook or the internet, etc. And they're not quite sure what to do. Who are these people, and what can be done? So if you're just tuning in, what can be done when a parent or grandparent is being scammed by a psychopath? Number one, help this person that's being scammed, the mother, the grandmother, whomever, help them recognize that your strength may also be your weakness. Help them recognize that your strength may also be your weakness, meaning this: when you're not wise to the scammer, when you're not wise to those who are trying to scam you, when you're wanting to be helpful, that may be hurtful to you. Because in many of these cases, these women, I'm just going to kind of lean on the women for a moment, because in many cases, it's the woman more than a man. But when these women are wanting to be helpful, they're wanting to be kind, they're wanting to be considerate, they have a little money in the bank, okay? And they'll even feel guilty for having a little money. They maybe never had a lot of money in the bank, but this insurance payment came in, and they have a little money in the bank, and they're glad for that. But if they can help someone, if they can be helpful. And so this guy calls and says, my car broke down, and I need some new tires. And as soon as I get some new tires, I'm going to come visit with you, and maybe we can have tea and crumpets. Well, for a lot of women, that really does appeal to them. And they will send that $5,000 so he can have his new tires. And as soon as he gets those new tires, he'll come over and have tea and crumpets. Well, if you're lonely and you haven't had, the interaction with a man in a long, long time, and someone's paying you some attention, tea and crumpets sounds nice if you can give them $5,000 for, their tires. But that's what happens. Your weakness is your strength, and your strength is your weakness. Where you want to be helpful, that may be hurtful to you. Therefore, here's what I encourage all the ladies out there, and also the men as well. When someone is trying to take money from you, they're wanting your bank number, they're wanting to send money in your account so you can send back to them money, or some sort of gift card or whatever, get someone else involved in your decision. Talk to your pastor. Ask them, is this a good idea? Is this legit? Talk to a counselor. If you got to pay your counselor $100 for the session and save yourself $10,000, that's a good trade-off.
Right.
Okay. Talk to your banker. Before you give away a lot of money, ask your banker, ask your financial consultant, talk to your adult children, talk to someone and say, is this a good idea or does this smell like a scam?
Right.
To you?
You see any red flags at all? Yep. There's wisdom in a multitude of counsel.
Wisdom in a multitude of counselors. Again, if you're just tuning in, we're talking about what to do if your mother, grandmother, or someone's being scammed by a con artist. Number 2, what you can do, beware of people pleasing. Again, thinking that by pleasing other people, this somehow gives you purpose. Remember, when you're in your 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, you want to still have purpose in life. And so beware of people pleasing, thinking that this gives you some sort of purpose. Beware of feeling bad for saying no. So many people were raised to believe that if you say no, that's selfish. And if you're a good Christian woman, you don't want to be selfish, especially if you have a little extra money in the bank. You don't want to be selfish. And so what happens is these con artists begin to understand this. They see this, they hear this, they pray on this, and they want to say, well, Ms. Jones, if you tell me no, that's just being selfish because you've got the money, and they will set you up for the scam. Now, here's the thing. Here's what you might want to do. If this has happened to you before, or if this continues to happen to you, or you've been warned by your kids, hey, mom, look, if someone calls you asking for a bank number, asking you for money, or if somebody finds you on Facebook, prepare a script.
Okay.
Prepare a script. In other words, saying no is an act of self-care and not a rejection of others.
Ooh, that's good.
Saying no is an act of self-care and not a rejection of others. So if someone wants you to send them $5,000, or they're going to put $50,000 in your account, or they're going to, send you this, so you can send them back some gift cards, whatever it may be, just say no as an act of self-care and not a rejection of others. And so the next question I often get is from a lot of these women is, but what if they get sad or mad, or what if they tell me that they'll never be able to, have a new car again, or they'll never be able to get a job again? You're not responsible for their emotions. You're not responsible for their life. Your job is not to make others happy. You're not responsible for how others feel. And so if they get mad, sad, or glad, that's not on you. That's not your responsibility. Yeah. Next, beware when someone wants to dominate you so that you're unable to ask questions. So in other words, when they say to you, hey, I need you to send me some money. I've got a broken leg. I'm out of work. I need you to do that. And you go, well, where do you work? Do you have any sort of, workman's compensation? Do you have any sort of, do you have any other resources? What about your children? Do you have any money? So the moment you start asking questions, they want to dominate you. Okay. They want to shut you down. They're not going to answer any real question. When you start asking them maybe to send you some of their personal information, they're going to, again, try to shut you down, especially if you express any personal concerns. Because what happens is they want you to go along and neglect your own needs. They want you to go along with their scam and neglect your own needs. And so that's important. What's important is, therefore, you identify your needs. And if it doesn't work for you, if what's being said, and it's not, if it doesn't work for you, then you don't do it. So in other words, if sending someone $10,000, there's something inside of you going, this doesn't feel right, then you don't do it. Don't do it anyway, but don't do it, In other words, know what your needs are. You have money given to you by your deceased husband's, insurance plan, so you can live out, the rest of your years of life in comfort. You're not to give that money to a scam artist or somebody who's trying to play you because their car's broke down, or they have a broken leg, or they just lost their job, or their kids are hungry. That's not on you.
Right. And that's the important part, and something that I love that you've stressed is this isn't a discouragement from people being generous.
Right.
It is an encouragement for people to be wise with their generosity.
Exactly. And we're going to talk about that in just a moment. Number 4, if you're kind of keeping count, again, if you're just tuning in, what you can do if a loved one is being scammed, teach them, help them not to feel guilty for making themselves the priority. In other words, don't feel guilty for taking care of you.
Yeah.
You know, this woman in this case is in her 60s. Sounds like she's able to live out her life and do things, but don't feel guilty for taking care of you. Replace guilt-inducing thoughts with the importance of self-care. You have earned the right at this age and stage of life to take care of you, to enjoy some things in life, to enjoy your grandkids, to enjoy, visiting some friends, to enjoy some travel, whatever it may be. But again, replace those guilt-inducing thoughts with the importance of self-care. And number 5, don't share personal information. Don't share it publicly, don't share it quickly, and don't share it with people you don't know.
Yes.
I'll say that again. Don't share personal information publicly, quickly, or with anybody you don't know. So here's a list of things you should never share publicly, things you should never share quickly, and things you should never share with anyone you've known less than a year.
All right, so here's the list.
Here's a list
if
of
you haven't
things
known
you
them for
don't
more
share,
than a year.
because if you share these things, you will be caught up in the scam. Don't share your financial status. No one has to know that you received $1 million insurance policy when your husband died. No one needs to know that, okay? Don't share your financial status. Don't share it online. Don't call it a blessing from God. Don't put it on the internet for all to see. Number 2, don't share your medical conditions. Don't let people know you have a bad heart. Don't let people know that you're on dialysis. Don't let a person know that you're struggling with some sort of condition medically. Thirdly, don't share any mental health condition. Don't share with someone that you have struggled with depression or anxiety, or that you're taking medicine for bipolar disorder. Don't share any mental health condition. Number 4, don't share family problems. Don't put on the internet, well, I'm having a problem with my adult kids and they never come over to see me, because the moment you do that, that scammer is going to go, well, Miss Jones, I'll come and see you.
You've been identified as a target.
I will be that daughter you never had. I'll be that son you never had. I'll come over for Thanksgiving. Those kids of yours, they're treating you so mean. By the way, if I'm going to be able to come there, could you send me $5,000 for that plane ticket? And now it's on. Don't share past traumas, of times of abuse or neglect when you were growing up, or maybe in your marriage, whatever it may be. Don't share any past romantic problems, that first engagement that broke or whatever. And don't share your political or religious views, because what will happen is they'll say, yeah, we need to support our candidate. And by the way, I'm having lunch with him next week. And if you send $10,000 to me, I'll make sure he gets it. Don't share your romantic problems or your political or religious views. Now, again, if you want to help during this Christmas season, here's 6 or 7 people and agencies that my family, my friends have supported over the years that they have found to be a blessing. I'm not saying you have to support these. I'm just simply saying here's some samples. These are just some samples of people that I've supported, friends have supported, family supported. Number 1, your local church. If you want to do something this Christmas season, support your local church, support the people inside your church, adopt a family. Number 2, the Salvation Army. They're always a blessing during this time of year. Samaritan's Purse, of course, is always a blessing. Also, too, Tunnel to Tower. There's so many of our vets who are struggling and they're wanting to provide for their families. Some other groups that I think have been a blessing to churches and to organizations, to ministries. Reason to Believe.org, Dr. Hugh Ross. One for Israel, if you want to be supportive to those who are going through so many changes in their own life. Many Jews are now receiving Jesus. Grace Evangelical Society is another group. The American Family Association. Those are just some samples of some places and people that you can support that will be a blessing not only to your church, to your community, but worldwide. Here's the point. Grateful people, as we said, are generous people. And many times, these individuals who are being conned and scammed are very generous people because they're very grateful people. Yeah. But again, the point simply is this. Don't let a psychopath ruin that for you. Don't let a psychopath ruin your Christmas traditions, your Christmas gatherings. Don't let a psychopath ruin the generosity that you want to bring during this time of year to those who need to hear about Jesus. Don't let a psychopath, rob you of again, the effort and the hard work and the foresight of a husband or wife that has left you hopefully in a good place. But do be generous. Do be gracious, but make sure your generosity goes in a place where Jesus is lifted up and people with real concerns have their needs met by you.
Well, there you have it from the Family Answerman. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, we hope that this episode of the Family Answerman will encourage you and inspire you to make changes that will lead to a stronger, healthier, happier family.